I looked at Isabella, and in her eyes, I saw a hint of relief. The heart that had been in my throat relaxed, but the next second, an inappropriate voice rang out. What kind of behavior is this of a hopelessly devoted lover? It's not real affection at all. I saw James strutting onto the stage with a triumphant look on his face and snatched the microphone from the host's hand. Mom, I've also prepared a gift for you. You'll definitely like it better. As he spoke, he took out a USB drive and connected it to the device. The darkened large screen lit up again. This time it was a series of videos edited together that were being played. The background changed, showing various beautiful mountain and river scenery. Isabella had a happy and sweet smile on her face. She was holding James's hand with her left hand, and with her right hand, she was holding another man's hand. I suddenly remembered something. Isabella would go on trips with her little sisters for a while every month, sometimes for as short as a week and sometimes for as long as half a month. I had always thought that it was her hobby, and I had also offered to accompany her, but she refused me. Now it seemed that she had been lying to me all along. She wasn't with her little sisters at all. She was clearly going to meet her old lover. The whole place fell into a deathly silence, and Isabella's sobs were particularly noticeable. I don't know when, but she shed tears while looking at the video on the big screen. Her reaction was completely different from when she looked at the previous photos, which had a huge impact on me. I have never experienced it, and I don't understand how deep the feelings must be for her to shed tears while watching the video. For as long as the video played, my heart ached until it ended. The eyes of the people present fell on me, mostly filled with pity, while Isabella alone clapped her hands. She walked up to James, regardless of everything, and patted him on the shoulder. You've put in a lot of effort, my child. I'm already very happy that you're here. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I felt that Isabella's gaze swept over me, intentionally or unintentionally. She took the microphone and cleared her throat. I would like to solemnly introduce to everyone that this is my son, James. She paused for a moment and then, as if making up her mind, continued, he is also the heir to my Isabella group. I hope you will all take good care of him in the future. I looked up at Isabella in shock. I never expected that she would do such a thing. You know, over the years, she had been a hands-off boss, and I had been the one managing the Isabella group. I'm not sad that all my hard work has been. I've been in vain for someone else. I'm just heartbroken that Isabella has never regarded me as a family member and valued me. The 60th birthday celebration I had painstakingly prepared for her has now become a scene of my humiliation. The commotion and the uproar are all related to me. I stared straight at Isabella. Haven't I been good enough to her all these years? Not only did she lie to me, but now she is also humiliating me like this. I suppressed the urge to rush up and question her, and left the scene furiously. With the help of my assistant, Isabella called out to me several times, but I didn't stop. When I got home, I stayed alone in the study, and that video kept replaying in my mind. I recalled more details. It turned out that the young lady who never touched the spring water of housework would also endure the fumes of cooking oil for a man. It turned out that she had repeatedly refused my requests for a honeymoon but accompanied another man to travel through mountains and rivers. It turned out that her so-called fear of childbirth was just that she didn't want the father of her child to be me. The life that I thought was respectful and harmonious was just because she didn't love me. After all, I wanted to leave, but my reason told me that I couldn't. When we got married, I reached an agreement with Isabella's mother that we would never get a divorce. Although the final result was not satisfactory, I couldn't break my promise. For a moment, I sat on the chair, feeling confused when Isabella walked into the study. She didn't look very happy. She opened her mouth and informed me, James will live here from now on. I will take him to get familiar with the company tomorrow. Also, how do you think others will see James because you left the party halfway today? Where do you put the face of the Isabella family? I looked up at her and couldn't help but laugh. Why didn't you consider the face of the Isabella family when you brought back your illegitimate son? She was the one who did the absurd thing, but in the end, she blamed it on me. Isabella wanted to retort, but I interrupted her directly. If I'm not mistaken, James' father is William, your first love, who made you do all those crazy things back then. I thought that since you were willing to marry me, you should have let go of those things in the past. We've been married for more than 30 years when you did such a thing today. Did you ever consider my face? With a bit of grievance, my voice involuntarily grew louder. Isabella's face turned pale and then purple from my questions. A hint of unease flashed in her eyes, but soon she became self-righteous. You investigated me. What did I do wrong? The huge Isabella group always needs someone to inherit it. It can't fall into the hands of an outsider. Or is it that you have ulterior motives, and that's why you have such a big reaction to me bringing James back? For a moment, I felt a bit more resentment in my heart. I have worked so hard to manage the Isabella group, but in the end, I was still suspected, and it was my wife who doubted me. How could this not make me feel disheartened? I stood up from the chair and looked Isabella in the eye, but in the end, I couldn't say a word. All that lingered around me was a deep sense of exhaustion. We were at a standstill until Isabella took the initiative to speak. Over the years, I have owed James. It's time to make it up to him. Besides, we're both getting old. Why argue over such trivial matters? It's much better to live in peace, she said lightly, as if she was just asking if I had eaten today. But why should I make up for her debt? I'm also a victim in this matter. She has lied to me for more than 30 years. Seeing that I remained silent, Isabella's somewhat softened expression showed a bit of impatience again. Perhaps in her opinion, coming to find me tonight was giving me a way out. After all, in the past 30-odd years, every time we had a quarrel, the one who compromised was always me. In the long silence, Isabella couldn't stand it anymore, and finally chose to slam the door and leave. I slumped back into the chair, looking back on my past life. All that was left was helplessness and ridicule, until the door was pushed open again, and this time it was James who came in. His leather jacket had been replaced with a black suit. He was wearing a famous brand watch on his hand and had 3 gold chains around his neck, looking like a typical upstart. It was obvious that he couldn't wait to take over the Isabella group. I gave him a cold look and said in a deep voice, "Get out. You're not welcome here." Instead of listening to me, James shrugged indifferently and took a few steps closer. "Old man, you're still so arrogant, but you're about to become a homeless dog and be driven out by me." When he said this, there was malice in his tone, with a strong sense of hatred. But I also didn't know where this hatred of his came from. As if seeing through my confusion, James curled his lips into a sneer. "My dad said that if it weren't for you, I should have been born as a young master with everything I could ever want, and I wouldn't have had to live on the streets and endure so many years of hardship. But I also want to thank you for managing the Isabella group so well, so that I can reap the benefits without effort. I'm just taking back what should have been mine." I slammed my hand on the table and stood up, pointing at his nose and cursing, but he looked completely indifferent. "Don't get angry. You're getting old. It's not worth getting your body in a bad state because of anger." I couldn't hold it in anymore. I picked up the inkstone on the table and threw it at him. I seemed to have lost my mind and threw everything I could get my hands on. James was caught off guard by my throwing. His eyes turned fierce, but he took a few steps back towards the door. "Sooner or later, I'll make you pay for this." After saying that, he left without looking back, being a complete coward. After venting my emotions, I sat on the chair dejectedly, and my eyes, I couldn't help but moisten. Yes, they were right. I'm so old that I have to consider my health even when I'm angry. What else can I do? Isabella knew this about me, and that's why she dared to bring James back openly, but I was asking myself, could I really just watch it like this? I sat on the chair all night, thinking about this question. The next day, my regular biological clock woke me up. I opened my eyes and looked around in a daze. After sitting for a whole night in an uncomfortable position, I felt a dull pain in my lower back. I reached out to rub it, feeling more helpless than anything. Under the premise that I couldn't get a divorce, it seemed that I could do nothing but avoid them. So when the butler told me that Isabella had already taken James to the company, I let out a sigh of relief. I can't accept James, and I can't forgive Isabella either. At our age, since we can't get a divorce, the only option is to stay out of each other's sight. I sighed and asked the butler to pack my luggage for me. I thought it would be better for everyone if I moved out, but although I wanted to deal with this on my own, there were always people who wouldn't let me go. When my assistant told me that James had a conflict with Julian in the company, my face didn't look good. Julian is a student I have sponsored for more than 10 years. He had excellent grades during his school days and entered the Isabella group through formal procedures after graduation. Although he is a student I sponsored, he has always been humble and has never used his status to lord it over others. He even rose through the ranks successively within just 3 years by virtue of his own strength. I know him well. He is not the kind of person who stirs up trouble, so the problem can only lie with James. Thinking back to what James said last night, it's not hard to suspect that he came prepared. I put down the suitcase in my hand and asked the butler to prepare a car for me to go to the company. But when I arrived at the scene, I realized that the situation was much more serious than I had imagined. James had a bruised face. The corners of his mouth and his eyes were both blue and purple. Julian looked much better, but his clothes were a bit messy. The employees below separated the two of them. Before I could open my mouth to ask about the situation, Isabella ran out from behind me. She nervously examined James, and the anxiety and anger in her eyes couldn't be hidden. "Mom, I just put forward my opinions on the plan. I don't know why it made Mr. Julian angry. Also, I've been living outside and haven't seen much of the world. I shouldn't have said so much." James looked grieved, and his act of playing the victim and being sentimental completely ignited Isabella. Without asking for an explanation, she rushed in front of Julian, but I stepped in front of Julian one step faster. A slap landed on my face, and it stung painfully. Isabella was taken aback for a moment, and then angrily shouted, "Do you still want to indulge him? It's outrageous to just hit someone in the company." Clearly, I had taken her to have a meal with Julian before, and at that time, she had even praised Julian for being sensible when Isabella was in poor health. Before Julian had even taken care of her personally for a while. Although there was no formal ceremony, in my opinion, Julian, it was almost like our child. I thought she wouldn't be so unable to distinguish right from wrong. But I was wrong. Shouldn't we also listen to Julian's explanation? I said in a deep voice, still trying to salvage the situation. I turned to look at Julian, seeing that he seemed to want to say something but held back. I patted him on the shoulder. Go ahead. Justice lies in people's hearts. Julian's eyes flickered between me and Isabella for a moment, and finally, he stared fixedly at James. He was the one who first cursed you to die. He said that when you die, he can inherit the company, and he said that no one can stop him from doing whatever he wants. Just now, he directly turned away a major client of the company. I just couldn't hold back my anger because your hard work was being wasted. A trace of embarrassment at being exposed flashed in James's eyes, and then, he defended himself. I didn't say anything wrong, did I? This is my mom's company, and I'm the president appointed by my mom. It's not up to an outsider like you to feel sorry for it. His tone paused with a bit of shifting the blame. Or is it that some people have colluded with each other for a long time and are in a hurry because they have ulterior motives? It was an obvious attempt to sow discord, and some of the employees who could tell what was going on came forward to speak up for me. But my gaze remained fixed on Isabella. Her expression became more and more serious, and there was a hint of weariness in her eyes when she looked at me. I knew that she believed it. This was the first time I felt that she was so unfamiliar. It turned out that more than 30 years of affection couldn't withstand a few casually thrown slurs from others. Clearly, she had seen all my efforts over the years. Perhaps she thought I was old and useless and wanted to replace me. I held back Julian, who still wanted to step forward and argue, and shook my head at him. I have a clear conscience over these years. If you're not satisfied, from today on, I can stop interfering in any affairs of the company. But Julian has achieved what he has today through his own efforts. I haven't provided him with any special favors, and you should be clear about that too. I suppressed the bitterness in my heart and looked steadily at Isabella. After all, it's quite embarrassing for the two of us to have ended up like this. Now that I've made a concession, I also hope that she can tell right from wrong. As I expected, there was a hint of hesitation and wavering on Isabella's face, as if she was seriously considering my words. The next second, James took Isabella's arm and pretended to be understanding, saying, "Mom, I'm not a petty person either, but I have, indeed, been beaten otherwise. Let him kneel down and apologize to me, and then we can let bygones be bygones." When he said this, he looked at me, his eyes full of pride and showing off. "Don't go too far. I've already made a concession. People can't have it all." In fact, on my way here, I had already guessed that the cause of the incident might be related to me, so while proving myself, I also didn't want to implicate Julian. But I didn't expect James to be so aggressive, and what disappointed me even more was Isabella's approval. "Julian, either apologize or our company can't accommodate someone like you." Isabella avoided my disappointed gaze and said sternly. For a moment, the last bit of hope in my heart shattered. She really didn't show me the slightest bit of mercy. Since that's the case, saying more is useless. I exchanged a look with Julian, understood the meaning in his eyes, and led him towards the door. A few sensible employees who heard the commotion came over and tried to stop us when they saw this. But Isabella stopped them with a glance. She let out a cold snort, her tone full of disdain. "They're really ungrateful wretches. All these years were wasted." I vaguely heard this sentence, but I didn't know if she was scolding me or Julian. But it didn't matter anymore. Until we were out of the company gate, I gave Julian a few words of advice and asked him to leave first. I turned back and looked at the building of the Isabella Group, the place where I had dedicated my whole life, and I was leaving it in such an undignified way. Even looking back on my life, there was no one behind me. I didn't go home, but took a taxi to my parents' graves, gently stroking the gravestone. Tears streamed down my face like beads with a broken string. The strength I had pretended to have was torn apart at this moment. "Mom, Dad, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I miss you." I don't know how long I cried, until a voice came from behind me. "Daniel." I turned around and saw an old man with white hair standing there, leaning on a walking stick. Looking closely at his face, I caught a glimpse of a sense of familiarity, and a name flashed through my mind. It took me a long time to speak. Nathaniel. Nathaniel was my dad's good business partner, who started a business together with him back then. After the company went bankrupt, he returned to his hometown to get married and have children. I didn't expect to see him again after so many years. Nathaniel also carefully observed me and sat down beside me. "Many years have passed, and we've all grown old. I've been feeling unwell recently, so I thought I'd come and visit my good brother. I'm quite surprised to run into you." Nathaniel began to tell me about the process of starting a business with my dad, his tone full of nostalgia. When it came to the ending, he was very angry and regretful. If it weren't for the traitor who sold the company's secrets, causing the company to be severely hit and the capital chain to break, your dad wouldn't have done something so desperate. I made a lot of efforts, but we couldn't save it. My expression froze, and I caught the key words. Was the capital chain never resolved in the end? That shouldn't be the case. Didn't the Isabella Group inject capital? When the Isabella Group was mentioned, Nathaniel suddenly became excited. The Isabella Group injected capital, but it was far from enough. At that time, your dad wanted to ask for more help, but what he got in return was a refusal. They even chose to withdraw the capital after seeing the specific situation of the company. The company that had just kindled hope was completely and severely damaged. These words kept swirling in my mind, almost destroying all my reason. This shouldn't be the case. Isabella's mother and I clearly reached an agreement back then. Isabella's mother came to me and said that as long as I was willing to marry into her family, she could provide funds to help my dad's company. At that time, I was still under the protection of my parents and had a very smooth life. When I saw my dad being so busy and worried about the company, I also wanted to do my part to help him. Even though Isabella had a very bad reputation in the circle, because of her first love, I didn't hesitate at all. We each got what we wanted. I needed her family's money, and she needed someone to restrain her daughter. The requirement she put forward was that we couldn't get a divorce. For this reason, I often felt guilty towards Isabella and tried my best to meet all her demands. At that time, I was studying design and didn't understand the tricks of running a company. My dad also told me that the situation of the company was getting better, to put my mind at ease. It wasn't until the day my parents committed suicide that I knew they had been lying to me. The situation of the company hadn't improved, but Isabella's mother told me that the company went bankrupt because it was involved in political reasons. I believed it, muddle-headed. I suddenly remembered that my dad had called me once before he committed suicide. He said, "Daniel, as long as you're happy, Mom and Dad can rest assured." They still thought that Isabella and I truly loved each other until they died, so they didn't want to tell me what Isabella's mother had done. Later, in order to help Isabella manage the company, I took relevant courses in business administration. Nathaniel had already been taken away by his son. Leaving me alone, sitting in front of the stone tablet like a joke, Isabella lied to me. And so did her mother. They must be very proud of having wrapped me around their fingers, binding me with a verbal promise for more than 30 years. They made me contribute to this family without expecting anything in return, and also made me feel grateful to them. When night fell, I moved my numb legs. I thought it was time for me to leave completely. So what if I'm old? After being deceived for more than 30 years, I don't want to live the rest of my life in deception. When I got home, I sat quietly on the sofa with a just printed document. The divorce agreement is in front of me to avoid trouble. I didn't even want a single cent from Isabella's family. I just wanted to get rid of it quickly. Isabella and James came back very late. What was different was that she was pushing a wheelchair. The person sitting in the wheelchair was the man who appeared in the video that dated her first love. Even though I was prepared, I still felt a twinge of sadness in my heart. I was still here, and she had already brought someone into the house. Isabella obviously noticed me too. A bit of uneasiness appeared on her face as she explained, "William's leg is injured, and he came here for treatment. He will be staying at our house for a while." Before I could respond, she pushed William and was about to go upstairs, but then she was in a dilemma. After all, at this hour, the servants had all rested, and it was a problem how to get William upstairs. I felt Isabella's gaze on me, but I turned a blind eye, making my attitude clear. "Mr. Daniel, I'm not convenient. I wonder if I could trouble you to carry me upstairs. After all, Isabella is too weak. I'm afraid she'll get hurt." In response to him, I gave a cold snort. So he wants to act like a gentleman, but why should I? An old man in his 60s should not be wasted like this. I'm in good health, but I'm not indestructible. Besides, isn't his son right there beside him? I turned to look. James stood there looking at me mockingly and waiting for me to take action. Seconds passed, but I remained unmoved. Isabella began to get impatient. She walked up to me, a little angry. "Can't you hear me? Why are you so petty, arguing with a sick person? Besides, you've occupied his position for so many years. This is what you should do now." My eyes swept over the father and son of the William family, who were watching the show. I stood up and looked Isabella in the eye. "Since you're so dissatisfied, then I'll give this position back to him." As I said this, I handed the divorce agreement to Isabella, but she didn't take it. A look of surprise flashed across her face for a moment, and then, as if she saw through everything, she sneered at me. "You're already so old, yet you're still playing the trick of using divorce to force me. You're old now and have no children. What can you do if you leave Isabella's family?" Her words were like blades stabbing into my heart, but they didn't cause any pain. James, beside me, also interjected in a timely manner. "Old man, you're not trying to take my mother's property, are you? I'm telling you, Don't even think about it. Since I met him, he hasn't stopped talking about property. The hint is too obvious, but Isabella is blind to it. Sign it. I don't want a single cent of the property. The eyes of the three of them all turned to me. I just calmly stuffed the agreement into Isabella's hand. I picked up the suitcase that I had packed in the morning and left without looking back. Before I left, Isabella seemed to want to say something, but her attention was drawn by William. I found a random place to rest. Fortunately, although I have been busy managing the company all these years, I have never given up on my beloved design. The money earned from the sketches I made in my spare time is enough to support me for the rest of my life. I lay in bed tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. It wasn't because of worry, but because of my longing for the future. I found an invitation from a prestigious university in my email. That was the place I had always dreamed of going. Before considering the company management issues, it wasn't convenient for me to go. Now I finally have the opportunity. The next day, I received a call from Isabella asking me to pick up the divorce certificate. I wasn't surprised by this. After enduring it for so many years, they had to be furtive when they couldn't be together. Now that there's nothing to hold them back, they definitely won't hesitate. During the process of getting the certificate, we remained silent the whole time. The staff, seeing that we were older, repeatedly asked us if we had thought it through, from beginning to end. My answer was yes. When we were partying, Isabella blocked my way. I didn't do anything wrong. This is my right to pursue love. After all, you don't want to torture each other with me either. I smiled, bypassed her, and felt that the shackles that had bound me had disappeared. At this moment, I was free. I embarked on a journey abroad. Before getting on the plane, I received a call from Isabella's mother. She is already old. After handing the company to me, she found a resort and lived a leisurely life. Her voice still carried the same dignity as before. You broke the promise. It's inevitable that the illegitimate child was brought back. After all, he is still of Isabella's family blood. But after all these years, why are you still so useless? You watched as the mistress entered the house. It's all just a mess. She couldn't bear to let Isabella's family blood be left outside, so she insisted that I make a compromise. Mrs. Isabella, you're mistaken. It was you who broke the promise first. I know the truth of what happened back then. I could clearly feel the person on the other end holding their breath, and then there was a long silence. The Isabella family hasn't treated you badly all these years. I've also contributed a lot to the Isabella family over the years. We're even. After I finished speaking, I hung up the phone directly and blocked her number. Several new messages appeared on my phone, sent by Isabella. Daniel, I really underestimated you. You pretended to be so free and easy on the surface, but you secretly complained to my mother behind my back. I'm telling you, we're already divorced, and there's no chance for us anymore. Coincidentally, I don't want there to be a chance with her either. I deleted and blocked her number as well. I let out a long sigh and embarked on my new journey. For the next period of time, I traveled a long way. According to my plan, the only person who occasionally contacted me was Julian. After discussing with me, he decided to start a company out of guilt. Of course, I supported him and recommended some of my former friends who were on good terms with him. Julian would occasionally share some trivial matters with me, but most of them were related to the Isabella group. For example, Ji Jiang had another conflict with a major client and got into a fight. There was also James, who was sexually harassing female employees, exploiting them, and the people below were suffering a lot. Many old employees resigned, and Isabella turned a blind eye to all these things. She handed over all the power to James while she took care of William in the hospital, living a sweet life for two. After hearing about it for a long time, I just felt bored and told Julian not to tell me about it anymore. After all, we're already divorced, and there's no need to pay too much attention anymore. My journey continued, but I didn't expect Isabella to come looking for me. Isabella stood in front of me, looking rather haggard. Looking closely, I could see a few strands of white hair at her temples. This surprised me and also made me feel quite emotional. You know, Isabella paid great attention to her personal maintenance. Regular treatments and expensive fees were nothing to her. In the past, I often accompanied her, but I just stayed by her side, bored. I didn't expect that after taking care of William for a while. She didn't even do her maintenance anymore. It seems that she really loves him. I looked at her, waiting quietly for her to speak. Meeting my gaze, she lowered her head uneasily, feeling a bit embarrassed. I called you, but you blocked me. Mom is dying, but she wants to see you. Probably feeling embarrassed to say it, she touched her nose, and her voice got lower and lower. I don't think I have anything to say to her. I was about to refuse, but Isabella stopped me, looking as if she wouldn't let me go if I didn't agree. After a long silence, I finally nodded. However, Isabella showed no intention of stepping aside. She suddenly raised her head, her eyes red. Sorry, I know I didn't do the right thing. You also proposed divorce to me at that time. I think we're even now. If you regret it and want to come back, I can accept it. After all, we're both old. There's no need to make such a fuss over some trivial matters. I sneered in my heart. I didn't understand what she had been through during this period to make her have such an epiphany. Isn't the love she yearned for so much? I have no way of knowing, but I'm not a dog that will come crawling back at her beck and call. I won't turn back, you're overthinking it. I've been having a pretty good time these days. Without giving her much time to react, I pushed her away and left, letting her shout behind me. I gave you a chance. Don't regret it later. Don't worry. I won't regret it. Who knows how carefree I've been during this time. I don't need to look at the dense documents every day until my head spins, and I can rest whenever I want. I also don't have to look at her face every day. I reflected on whether I had done something wrong. In the end, I still went to see Isabella's mother. She was lying weakly in bed, and her eyes lit up when she saw me. Maybe when people are about to die, they like to look back on their lives. I listened quietly as she talked a lot. When she mentioned Isabella's rebellious love affair, her expression became particularly ferocious. That man clearly took the money and left, but he insisted that I forced him away. He's really shameless. She looked at me with a hint of guilt. I'm really sorry for what happened back then, but the past is in the past. Can you bear to watch the Isabella group fall into the hands of others? Hearing this, I finally understood why she had asked me to come. It turned out that she still wanted to use me like a workhorse, but there was no necessary bond between us. I smiled at Mrs. Isabella, shook off her hand that was holding mine, and said coldly, "We're already divorced, and all this has nothing to do with me. If that's all you have to say, then I should go." I didn't understand. She clearly had something to ask of me, but she wouldn't even say sorry to me. I walked out of the ward and met Isabella, who was standing outside. Her eyes were a bit glazed. I didn't know how long she had been standing there or how much she had heard, but it had nothing to do with me. I continued with my life and began to explore things I had never experienced before. Most of the time, people would ask me why I wasn't resting at home at my age. Every time, I would just smile and say nothing. Throughout my life, age has never been a shackle that restricts me. The next time I heard news about Isabella was brought to me by Julian at Isabella's mother's funeral. Isabella and William had a falling out and got into a fight. The incident caused quite a stir, and Isabella, who was once praised for pursuing true love, became a laughing stock. Even more ridiculously, on the day of the funeral, creditors came to the door. It was the debt that James owed. It turned out that James had already developed a gambling habit. Just as I had guessed, he had come for the Isabella family's fortune. From the start, first he embezzled the company's funds to pay off part of his gambling debts, but later he became addicted again and bet bigger and bigger as the company's financial loopholes grew larger and larger. This matter was exposed. At first, James tried to shift the blame onto the employees, but when the creditors came to the door, his guilt was confirmed. Almost overnight, the Isabella group suffered heavy losses. It wasn't going to go bankrupt immediately, but James's actions had caused a lot of dissatisfaction among the employees. All the female employees of the company jointly reported to the media, pushing James and the Isabella group to the center of public attention. For a while, there was a lot of negative news about the Isabella group on the internet. When Isabella came to me, I was leisurely fishing by the river. She looked even more haggard than last time. There were even some swollen areas on her face. It was obvious that she hadn't been doing well during this time. The company is in a very dangerous situation now. Can you please try to persuade those employees who have resigned to stay? They all trust you. Just do it for old time's sake. My attention was still focused on the fishing rod, and I didn't even turn my head when she kept suspecting that I had ill intentions towards the company. There was no more old time's sake between us. Seeing that I didn't respond, Isabella started crying on her own. I really made a mistake. I was being stupid. I never expected that James would be such a disappointment, and William, he's been lying to me for years. I'm a victim too. He even hit me. Now her crying really disturbed my fishing. I finally gave her a look. She made her own choices. So what's with this show of grievance now? Not just me. Everyone present at that moment was looking at me with the same kind of gaze. I think she should understand how I felt back then, but it's all too late. Now, I put away the fishing rod. There were not many ripples in my heart, and I just left with the words, "You reap what you sow." I thought I had made my stance clear, but Isabella still wouldn't let me go. She would still show up where I was, trying to evoke the memories between us through sentimental words. But most of the time she would fall silent halfway through because there was never anything truly beautiful between us. She had always been the one who enjoyed everything, and she had never really given anything for me. The last time she stood in front of me, she was holding a bowl of fish soup that she had cooked herself. "I made this myself. You haven't tried it yet, have you?" She held the bowl up to my mouth, but I knocked it away without mercy. At that moment, I saw the desolation and deadness in her eyes. She forced a smile at me. "We can't go back, can we?" I had already told her the answer long ago, but she just refused to accept it. I don't think that what she did during this time meant that she realized she loved me. She just needed an obedient servant. When Isabella left, I felt that her back had bent a bit. The next time I heard about her was in the social news. Isabella set a fire and burned both William and his son to death. It was said that the two of them were tied up at that time and couldn't run away, so they were burned alive. The lawyer that Isabella had entrusted found me. Isabella transferred the shares of the Isabella Group to me and also left a suicide note. I threw the suicide note into the trash and handed the shares to Julian to deal with. I'm an old man and don't have the energy to manage a company.